It's a long way from Paris, but this is Petit Le Mans. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, where Le Mans has come to America. So ahead of them, a 10-hour race over 1,000 miles, whichever comes the sooner. Missing from the grid, the Raffinelli BMW team, but the Porsche factory is stacked up against America's best. They're on pole position. McNish will start. Didier Tace will start the Ferrari. Alboreto will start the Urst Porsche. Eric van der Poel will start in Wayne Taylor's Ferrari 33SP. Big grid lined up here. David Lazard and Angelo Lazard in the Ferrari there, and then Butch Leitzinger in the Riley and Scott Ford, the man who's fighting against Wayne Taylor for the championship here. David Murray, the man who led at Sebring, starts his Riley and Scott from 7th place, and in 8th place, Terry Boutsen in the champion Porsche. So 31 cars lining up on the grid, and this beautiful track really ready to see some of the best action we've seen for years in America. This track was built in 1970 for Can-Am racing and then for IMSA, and it now hosts top American club racing. Owner Don Paynos is currently rebuilding the circuit. He's spent millions already, and he's hoping to attract kart champ cars within 2 years. He's also got his headquarters at Paynos here, plus a Paynos racing school. We're further down the grid. We saw there Philippe Gache in their Solution F Ford, Riley and Scott. Scott Pruitt then in the Paynos. He's driving at Brabham, Wallace and Eric Bernard. And then the Ford, Riley and Scott's, more Paynoses, and all lining up right down through the GT2 cars there with Cor Oyser. Should have been on pole position from Franz Conrad, but as we said, Oyser moved to the back of the grid. He's allowed to start despite having fuel that the organisers deemed to be illegal. Also not starting the Johnny O'Connell Paynos, the one that was crashed so heavily in Friday qualifying. We're getting ready now for the race start. Here they are on this beautiful Road Atlanta facility, new walls around the track, and the main work has been done down behind the pits. But the pits, in fact, have been moved across the track. This is the final S's. This is chicane, they call it. We'd call it an S's in Europe. And the problem with this corner used to be the cars came straight down that hill, under this bridge, and then there is the most awesome hill they drop over. Here it is. That's why the S's is there now. They're coming up for the start. McNish with Didier Tace alongside him, then Alboreto, then Eric van der Poel, then Angelo Lazard, then Butch Leitzinger, and David Murray. The race is on. The start, they go for oil drop by one of the previous races, and already Alan McNish has put that Porsche 911 GT1 car, the car that won the 1998 Le Mans 24 Hours, out into the lead ahead of the open cars. Of course, here the open cars are hampered by the Le Mans restrictors. We saw what happened in June at La Sarthe when the GT Porsches managed to put one over the Ferraris and the Urst Porsches. They won the race, and looks like the same's happening here again at the moment. But Didier Tace knows this track so well. Wayne Taylor knows this track well. Butch Leitzinger knows it well. They have all raced here over the past 4 or 5 years. The track is not different in itself. It's just the facilities around it. But none of that means anything to Alan McNish at the moment. He's leading on his first visit here. We are on board with Bill Albolen, already 1998 GT3 champion. He's on board the BMW M3, the PTG car, and he's chasing the Mazda there of Jim Downing. This is the latest Kudzu Mazda, and they're planning to bring that blue Mazda to Le Mans next year. Didier Tace second, Eric van der Poel in third place. He'll hand over later to Wayne Taylor, and then behind the Paynos has managed to get itself ahead of the champion Porsche. There's Terry Boutsen at the wheel of the champion Porsche. We're on board with him. He is following at the moment Scott Pruitt. That's Scott Pruitt driving the Paynos, the only one of the naturally aspirated Roush V8 engine Ford ones, and Boutsen has a look to go around the outside of him. He can't quite do it. Alboreto has already had a bit of a problem. He had a gear change problem, dropped back a few places, but he's made those places up again as they go through turn 1 and powering up the hill. Alan McNish and Didier Tace driving hard and hard. Tace is catching up with him all the time. This Ferrari, the Lister Ferrari, run by Kevin Doran Racing. They're getting something like 620 horsepower through this former Formula 1 engined car, the V12, 4 litre, up against the 3.5 litre twin turbo Porsche 911 GT1, the mobile car there of Alan McNish, going through back markers already on board still with Didier Tace, and he's giving McNish a very hard time. McNish later saying it is so hard driving at this track anyway, but when you've got a Ferrari 3 feet behind your rear bumper, it makes it even more difficult. It's less than 3 feet. Sometimes the Ferrari is lighter, catches up under braking, and then the turbo car just powers its way down that hill as they come to start another lap. And Tace still trying to get by. They're going past back markers. Tace is looking. He tries on the inside. He looks on the outside. Can he go through? He's trying so hard. No, Alan McNeish shuts the door very firmly, keeps him off, and Didier Tace has to be content with second place for the moment. Anthony Lazzaro there, Eric van der Poel in the Ferrari, and the Yost Porsche of Michele Alboreto now catching up with that group. There's a big battle going on for third place behind them. And we go on board with Eric van der Poel. He's going to be handing over to Wayne Taylor quite soon. Anthony Lazzaro there in the yellow Ferrari. That is one of the ex-Andy Evans Scandia cars. There we are on board with Eric van der Poel, the Belgian, pushing hard. Him, Wayne Taylor, having won Daytona in 1996. They were also American sports car champions that year. Eric, of course, an experienced endurance driver. Just look at him twitching the wheel on that Danker Ricci Doyle Ferrari. There he is. Michele Alboreto catching up as well now in the Yost Porsche. On the Yost Porsche looking to go through on the inside, down the back of the circuit. Can't quite do it. Try again as they head down towards what they call the chicane, this huge chicane. Past Bill Abelin's BMW, but that lets Michele Alboreto through on the inside, and Alboreto moves up another place in this race. Down that hill, oh, it's even steeper than Radion backwards at Spa. It's steeper than Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch, and there's trouble already. One of the Riley and Scott's, this is the Banana Joe's car of James Brown. He's got trouble with overheating. He's spun the car out. He's heading for the pits to have repairs. Gets that car really sideways, slipping and sliding on its own coolant. And meanwhile, Didier Tace still pushing hard. Comes up behind the 72 Franz Conrad, Jan Lammers GT2 leading car, on board again with Didier Tace, down to the back of the circuit. A little bit like Mosport here, you've got a big double right-hand apex at the back, and that's the far end of the circuit from the pits, and it comes all the way back again. Well, there's standings after 44 laps, and Alboreto, Johansson and Muller in the factory Yost Porsche move themselves up the order into second place. Lap 58, though, it's all over for the Marcos. Harold Becker driving, stops on the track with a seized differential, and Korreuser and Christian Van's weekend is over. They'll be going on to Homestead with this car, having repaired it. Well, Didier Tace still in third place and pushing as hard as ever. He and Alboreto having fought that great battle, but dramas are now coming out for the Lister car. Tace has a fuel problem. Appears there is dirt in the fuel injection system. He cannot restart the car, and he's trying to get back to the pits on the starter motor. Well, the race continues with the big fight going on between the 77 Yost Porsche there and the 39 Riley and Scott of David Murray, man who led Sebring 12 hours in March. They're both going past GT2 leader Franz Conrad. Alboreto is now handed over to Stefan Johansson, and this fight continuing as we get well up towards the halfway mark. Now as they go past Didier Tace's car, still sitting there, his starter motor's burned out. He's going to go no further, and eventually safety crew will come out and tow that car off the track and back to the paddock. It's out of the race. David Murray comes in, hands over to Jim Matthews. Good race for the MCI Riley and Scott team. Meanwhile, Michele Alboreto in third place. He's one lap down now after a stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane when Stefan Johansson brought the car back in to hand over. But he's still leading the open car Le Mans prototype category. Still leading overall is the GT1 of Yannick Dalmas and Alan McNeish. And then the Paynos has moved itself up into second place, Brabham, Pruitt and Wallace. There is Dalmas, Yannick Dalmas at the wheel now, pushing just as hard as McNeish. These two so well suited, almost the same size. Both Le Mans winners, McNeish this year, Dalmas 3 years previously. And there, after 180 laps, is confirmation of the order as Wayne Taylor moves his Ferrari up into second place, but suddenly the track is covered with wreckage as Alan McNeish's concerns before the race are realised. Yannick Dalmas has had the mother and father of all accidents. Now watch what happens. He's there in the Yost in the factory Porsche, right behind the Urst Porsche. He gets into the dirty air of that Urst Porsche. The front of the car lifts, and he's a passenger as it does a backward somersault, 10 meters in the air, at 160 miles an hour, slams into the concrete retaining wall, and the car is absolutely destroyed. Happily, Dalmas is quite unhurt. Let's have a look again in slow motion. That's what happens when the air gets under the car. These flat-bottom cars, they don't like dirty air. Over he goes, and this becomes the fourth car to come to grief here over the years. Bob Wallach has seen so many people do this. Hurley Haywood, Denny Hulme, and Jim Hall in the Chaparral have all had an accident at the same place here. The Triple Le Mans winner, Dalmas, gets himself out, shaken but unhurt as the pace cars come out. Well, there's obviously a lengthy yellow course period for that, and by the time the restart comes, it's dark, and the number 5, Panos, takes the lead, but almost immediately starts smoking. So big problems for David Brabham, and the car will be heading for the pits after 335 laps of its home circuit. The number 4, Panos, that is, of Pruitt, Brabham, Wallace, and Eric Bernard. So Panos's dreams of winning his home race against such world-class opposition comes to a smoky finish. The car retires with a suspected drop piston. All this, of course, puts the number 77 Urst Porsche back up into second place overall, and it's going to be the last race for the Urst Porsche, because it's just been announced this week that Urst will be running Audi's Le Mans program next year. None of this means anything to the Panos team here at home in Road Atlanta under Tony Dow. Engine problems in that Roush Ford engine. Here is the Urst Porsche, Alboreto and Johansson sharing that car with Jörg Müller, going down the steep drop, final turn 12 and past the start-finish line in second place at the moment, and that second place is now behind the Rissy Doyle Ferrari of Wayne Taylor, Eric van der Poel and Frenchman Emmanuel Collard. So what a dramatic race. We've had a lot of crashes during the course of this race, something like 7 yellow caution periods, quite a lot of the BMWs crashing out of the race. We've also had GT2s crashing out, and finally we're getting towards the end of this long and thrilling race. But the image everyone will remember surely is of Yannick Dalmas's backflip in the factory Porsche. Here is the race leader, Eric van der Poel at the wheel, Wayne Taylor nervously waiting in the pits, and Emmanuel Collard, the man who just 2 weeks previously at Le Mans proper won the International Sports Racing Series, John Mangalex's championship for the Open sports cars. He's joined the Ferrari team. Wayne Taylor said, "You're the guy I need to help try and win this 10-hour race." And there, in fact, is Emmanuel Collard in the pits, watching the progress of his teammates. How did Wayne Taylor feel at this moment? Wayne Taylor, we talked to you this morning. You were hoping you could pull back your championship lead. At the moment, it's looking quite good.
Yes, it is, and as I said before, you know, I've got to take each race by race, and this event has become such a global event that it was important to win the prototype division, and you know, at the moment we're leading the race overall, which would be fantastic, and wherever Butch finishes, he finishes. But I think if we finish where we are now, the deficit will go from 10 down to 3, and it'll be a shootout in Laguna, and I don't want to think about that.
Well, indeed, Butch Leitzinger is running down in 4th at the moment, and if Wayne Taylor can maintain this position, he will finish, I think, just 4 points in front. So Taylor's Rizzy Doyle, Danka Toshiba Ferrari team are on the pit wall, waiting for Eric van der Poel to head for his second 1998 sports car win after victory in Las Vegas earlier this year. Eric van der Poel on the last lap, and that victory will in fact close Taylor to just 4 points behind Leitzinger in the American Sports Car Series, with that one race to go at Laguna Seca this weekend. The race will be held alongside the final round of the FIA GT Championship. So Eric van der Poel, known as Tantan universally, the Belgian comes to take a famous victory here in the first ever Petit Le Mans. Leitzinger finishes 4th, and that keeps that championship tight right the way to Laguna Seca. Second, Alboreto, Johansson and Müller in the Urst Porsche, and third, a great drive by Terry Boutsen Ralph Kellner and Bob Wallach in the champion Porsche GT1. We didn't see a lot of them, but they were there. Leitzinger finishes 4th with Henry Camprodam and Henry Schubo, and that yellow Ferrari of Lazaro Davis and Dolite finishing in 5th place, just ahead of the Mazda of the Downing. Sadly, Conrad Carr went out with all sorts of problems earlier on. It didn't win the GT2 category. That went to the Freisinger Porsche of Michel Ligenet and Stewart. So there are the provisional results. Behind them, 9 hours, 48 minutes of racing. They went to exactly 1,000 miles on this circuit. That's 391 laps of Road Atlanta. Alan McNeish took fastest laps, so at least had something to bring back, and finishing 12th was that electric Paynos. Just 12 of the 31 cars that started finished the Petit Le Mans.